Okay, sorry about the problems that we've had with the Hangouts on air. I think they were just some techie issues, and therefore people just couldn't participate. So what I'm going to do now is record my whole presentation again, quite fast. I'll try to do it in less than 10 minutes, so that everybody can have a chance to see what I gave the T319 students earlier. We ended up in the OU Live room to do it. So let's go to Prezi. And as you can see, I've already prepared some diagrams in Prezi. Now, Prezi works through frames. It's essentially a presentation tool. Okay, so it's not a diagramming tool. However, its functionality is quite good for developing the range of systems diagrams that we use, and I've really taken to it in the last couple of years. And so the way it works is that you introduce a frame, and this is like a slide. This is where you present your information, and on the left-hand side, you can see the individual frames, the slides that I've created, and you can move them around in the order that you like them to be presented. So I'm putting the frame to be number 1, the one I've just created now. And if you click on that, you will zoom to that spot. If you click on the next point, you will zoom to the next frame that I added, which contains the diagrams, so on and so forth. And you can move things around. Okay, so I finished editing the path. Now, let's start with the rich picture. So when you go into a complex environmental management situation, what you want to do is carry out an unstructured exploration of the situation, the context of the situation. And the rich picture is a great visual brainstorming tool, because it allows you to not only capture the facts and the figures, but also your own emotional state, and really emphasize what you're upset about or what you like. Okay. And so in this case, what I've done is I've created a series of images in Paint using a tablet, right? And I've inserted them using the Insert Image facility. So you go to Select Files, and you select the component of your rich picture that you've drawn. So I've selected that, now that's appearing. And the beauty of Prezi is that you can move things around, okay? And then you can expand and reduce them. That's quite handy, because you have a lot of flexibility in creating your rich picture, right? Size matters in rich pictures, because you want to emphasize things that are really important for you and minimize the things that are part of the situation, but you don't want to give them so much attention. Okay, so let's delete this. And I added this earlier. And what's wonderful too is that it can be very collaborative. So different participants can email in their images, and you can just put them in and you can decide where they fit. What I've also done is I've added text. Okay, sometimes it's useful to have hand-drawn text to, handwritten text for the emotion. But sometimes when you want to convey quite a complex and long, that's not really recommended in rich pictures. Like this, I don't think I'd write something so long in my final version, but it can be quite useful. And the way you add text is you just click on a blank space You add your text, you change the size of the text, you can even change its color and make it bold or italicize it, and then you move it around to where you want it to be. Okay, now another really great thing about Prezi is that you can do a fractal series of diagrams. In here I've hidden some diagrams that my course team members and I developed on the aviation white paper for a module that's no longer being provided to the Open University. And so zooming into that, whoops, no, that's the wrong one. Okay, so that's a rich picture that was drawn by one of our artists. And in there, there's another picture hidden away. Let's see if I can zoom into that. And so that's a spray diagram, and you can't zoom in any further, but it shows how much you can zoom in and out of Prezi and embed a whole series of notes and diagrams and images. It can be a fantastic content management system for any project. Okay, and so zooming out, you can see how far you can go, and in fact, you can add a lot more content, okay, to the one that I've added already. So it can be a very powerful content management system. It may seem messy, but actually you can navigate through it with the left-hand side slide selector, okay. Now, going on to the spray diagram, double-clicking on that, we zoom in there. Now, there is an issue with diagramming in that when you move a component around, the spokes, the connectors don't move with you. So as opposed to professional mind mapping software like Bubble or Us or Magic Map or other tools like that, you can't move around. So I've learned a trick. What I do is I brainstorm the content for a spray diagram. So I can add air pollution, all in the same text box. Okay, noise, waste, and there's this nifty little tab here which allows you to drag components out and position them where you wish. Okay, so after you've done your brainstorming, this is your opportunity to move things around in the right order, and only once you're more or less satisfied that things are in the right order, that's where you start adding your links. And the way to add your link, this is the quite tedious way: draw a line, and you add a link, and you change its thickness to how you like it. But what I do is I just select a link randomly and then copy paste it. So it's the right size, the right color, and I've got my links there. Okay. So going on to the next diagramming technique, systems map. So you can use the shapes that Prezi comes with, and you have circles, rectangles, and triangles. Okay, symbols and shapes. Okay, so you can bring one of these in and change your color and change the size. Okay, so that might look nice in a presentation because the frames that I use don't actually, let me change this type, I want it into a circle. You can't actually put colors inside, but you can change the color of the boundary. Okay. However, there's a huge advantage of having a frame in that it can help you position different components around. Okay, now there is a problem. As you may have noticed, all the content within a frame moves around except for when you haven't done your insertion properly. And you can see here uncertainty. The boundary of that component goes outside the frame. So if I reduce its size, now I can move it around. Okay, but if for any reason it goes outside the boundary, that's it, you can't move it around. Okay, so you've got to be very careful with that. But it's a very nifty tool, being able to move your subsystems around. You can change their size. One problem with that, though, is that the text inside changes too. So if you want all the text to be of equal size, you'll have to go in once you've reduced it and increase it back up to fill the space. Okay, right. So that's the systems map for you. Going on to the influence diagram, usually what you do is you base it on a systems map, right? And so again, what you can do is you select your systems map, you select a frame, you copy and paste it. And hey presto, you've got a copy of your systems map. And then you can go in, let me double click to zoom in, and you can move things around to suit your evolving influence diagram. And what's nifty is that an influence diagram, the thickness of the arrow communicates the strength of influence between the components. And so you can change that around. Okay, so I'm going to copy that arrow and I'm going to link it to this other subsystem. And I think that's very important influence. So I'm going to put a thick arrow. So again, very easy to do in Prezi. Okay, zooming out again, we move on to the multiple cause diagram. What I like about multiple cause diagramming in Prezi is that you can develop some quite professional looking diagrams because of this ability to create bendy lines. Now, again, you've got to be careful about the positioning of your components, because if you do decide to, for example, link number of destinations to, I don't know, taxation regime, right? The arrows don't move with you, and it's going to be a right nightmare shifting all these arrows around. And so the best thing to do is actually to decide on the positioning of your components first, and then you put the arrows in. Okay. And then finally, causal loop diagramming. Again, very nifty, because I like to, sometimes plus and minus can be quite confusing for people. So in Prezi, what I do is I just make the reinforcing connections red and the dampening connections blue, right? And so an increase in taxes on air travel results in an increase in flight costs, or a decrease in taxes on air travel results in a decrease in flight costs. An increase in flight costs results in a decrease in a demand for air travel. There's a negative link there, so on and so forth. So that's the way to do it. And the way you change the color is through this. And it's very easy to do. Okay. Now, once you've developed all your diagrams, another wonderful thing about Prezi is that you can actually make, not only can you make copies of your diagrams within your workspace, but you can make copies of your diagram. Gosh, how do you do that in Hangouts? Well, let's. You probably can't. I haven't shared the right screen, so it won't move to the other screen. Anyway, you can make a copy of your whole presentation. Others can make a copy of your whole presentation and edit that. So that's a quick run through Prezi, and we're looking forward to your feedback, and hopefully we'll figure out Hangouts soon. Because it's a real pity that we couldn't get everybody chipping in with their questions and their issues this time around. All right, ciao.